My name's Kerry Nettle and I'm a Senator for the Greens and I represent New South Wales and I deal with all the immigration issues on behalf of the Greens in the Senate. I've been in Parliament now for 4 years and been an activist for several years before that. The government has been running a scare campaign in the Australian community about the threats that asylum seekers pose to our country. Now, they've been doing that purely because they think they can tap into a sentiment in the community that is going to give them votes. It's not illegal to seek asylum. We've got international law which ensures that people can seek asylum and countries have the obligation to accept those asylum seekers. So there's no such thing as illegals. It's not illegal to seek asylum. In fact, we've got international law that says we have to accept them. Fear is a very powerful motivating factor, and so people have responded to that fear and the scaremongering that the government is doing and bought a lot of that. Well, they did in the beginning. They're not so much now. But that sort of terminology, talking about people jumping queues, like there's no queue in Afghanistan when there's a war going on that people line up on. There's no queue in West Papua, for example, where people are being persecuted. I mean, these queues simply don't exist and it's not illegal to claim asylum. Sometimes I think of it as like a big brick wall, the government's mandatory detention regime. And like if we're down there pulling out those bottom bricks, you start pulling out enough of those bottom bricks, the whole wall falls down. So we just got to keep fighting away on the particular issues and trying to get some movement with that, and eventually it will all crumble. Unfortunately, in Australia at the moment, they get locked up for several years and interviews and questions and dragged through court processes and then to finally be determined to be a refugee. But what you should do is simply ask the questions of people about their situation, understand their circumstances, and then you're able to assess whether or not they are fleeing persecution and they need to be protected. Their lives need to be protected from that persecution. There are many people who are seeking asylum who are still living in the community. So the government can choose to give them bridging visa E, for example, which has no work rights. So what that means for so many people in Australia is that they have to survive off the charity of church organisations or refugee supporters because the government has said to them, you're not allowed to go out and work. I've got tremendous criticism about how long it takes the federal government to ask those questions, but that's what you need to do, is you need to ask those questions. And we say you should be able to do that in a number of weeks or months at the outset, not the years that it takes you. I don't let the government intimidate me and I get to meet great people and do great work. And I actually think that this government is, particularly on the issue of how they treat refugees, is falling apart at the seams. I mean, they started out trying to be so tough, and I think that the response that we've seen in the community, the vast number of people around the country who've met asylum seekers, worked with them, gone to visit them in detention centres, provided food for them, provided a house for them, is quite phenomenal. We've made great changes that have improved the lives of people in circumstances that have improved the lives of asylum seekers, and I think we'll see more and more of that. I mean, just this week when we had the migration legislation, the government had to withdraw it because they don't have majority support in the Parliament. Now, they haven't had majority support on this issue in the community for some time now. They're now not even getting majority support within the Parliament. So I think it's actually a great story of success in the way in which people in the community can influence and change government policy. There's always more work to do, and it's never as much compassion and humanity as we would like to see in that process. But I actually think it's been a great success story of the way in which community attitudes have forced the government to become more humane and more compassionate, even if it is just on the edges. One of the best things about my job is that I get to work with people who are really passionate and who really care and put their whole lives and their livelihoods into supporting an issue they care about, asylum seekers and other issues as well. I've got an amazing job, and it enables me to hear the stories of asylum seekers in Australia and the circumstances under which they live, to go and visit people who are claiming asylum and are locked up in Baxter or wherever it might be in detention centres